I was reading an article in a Catholic journal just a couple days ago, and it was about a project in New York City. And the name of the project is She Built New York City. She Built New York City. And this project started when some people noticed that out of the 150 statues that are around New York City of popular historical people, only 5 were of women. So of course that got the ball rolling for this project. In order to bring greater balance to the gender of the statues and to educate the public about the role of women in the history of New York City, they asked for public input and suggestions for women who should be honored. And they're going to place like a statue of each borough or each place around New York. About 300 names of women were submitted by the public. Guess who received the greatest number of votes? St. Frances Xavier Cabrini. She was the youngest of 13 children. She grew up, born on July 15, 1850, in a small village near Milan, Italy. She was always fascinated by stories of missionaries, and she made up her mind that she was going to become a nun and join a religious order. But because of her frailty and her poor health, she was not permitted to join the one order that really kind of educated her, the Daughters of the Sacred Heart. They had been her teachers, and it was under their guidance that she kind of grew in her faith. In 1880, she had 7 female companions, and she founded the Institute of the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. She was very resourceful, and she was able to find people who were willing to donate to support this idea of the Institute. Money, time, labor, okay? She and her sisters actually wanted to go to China to be missionaries, but when she visited Rome and had an audience with Pope Leo XIII, he said to her that she shouldn't go to the east, but she should head west to America, to New York. She was to help thousands of Italian immigrants who were pouring into New York during that decade of our history. In 1889, New York was not what it is today. Well, maybe it's the same, but it was filled with chaos and poverty, with so many poor immigrants, uneducated immigrants, people who didn't speak the language coming into the city. So Mother Cabrini and her sisters organized catechism classes, education classes, English language classes for these Italian immigrants. She provided for the needs of many who were orphans who were coming over and sent over from Italy. She established schools and orphanages. Against all odds, she and her sisters were able to kind of organize the Italian immigrant community and help it to prosper and grow. Soon she started receiving requests to open schools in other parts of the world. She traveled to Europe, Central and South America, and throughout the United States. She crossed the Atlantic Ocean 23 times and established 67 Catholic institutions, schools, hospitals, and orphanages. Her activity like this continued until her death on December 22nd, 1917 in Chicago. In 1946, she was canonized by Pope Pius XII in recognition of her holiness and her service to humanity. She was named Patroness of Immigrants in 1950. She's the first saint to be consecrated canonized who lived in America. Today, the missionary sisters and the lay order, the third order, and volunteers work as teachers, nurses, social workers, administrators, members of institutional boards and trustees. They can be found on 6 continents and 15 countries throughout the world, wherever there is a need.